Hi, Tim Shields, Zaya America. Jordan Peele is a fascinating man, starting off writing and occasionally cameoing for shows like Reno 911 and Mad TV. By my recollection, he spent about a decade slowly accruing enough clout in the industry to finally get the resources to make his own productions. He left Mad TV in 2008, pairing with longtime creative partner Keegan-Michael Key to create one of my favorite sketch comedy shows of all time, Key and Peele. This was a smash hit for Comedy Central and ran for 5 seasons. What struck me immediately as a longtime Tokusatsu fan, something I've gone into exhaustive detail on previously, was how often the sketches would blend genres and incorporate low-budget filmmaking techniques from fantasy or science fiction or horror. It was very clear right off the bat that Jordan Peele had an appreciation for the classics. Obviously, this should come as no shock considering his legacy to follow, producing a remake of The Twilight Zone, one of the direct inspirations for Ultra Q, the foundation of the Tokusatsu medium, Get Out with all of its practical effects and allegory, Us being conceptually rooted in storytelling tactics designed around making the most of the least amount of resources in service of social commentary. We see this love for the medium and the genres that birthed it reflected yet again in his latest entry, Nope, which was pretty good, by the way, a film dedicated to deconstructing the spectacle of entertainment, to asking what of the exploited human beings working to create art for corporate profit off of the back of tragedy, which I think is kind of relevant to our discussion today. My favorite tribute that Peele has made to the medium of Tokusatsu is not one of these more traditional entries. It's a parody music video centered around his character Wendell, a caricature of the nerd incel stereotype that became so popularized after the events of Gamergate in 2014. As a disclaimer, yes, the character of Wendell is conceptually a little fatphobic. It's eventually revealed that his weight is due to overeating as a coping mechanism for the loneliness that Wendell inflicts on himself, with his toxicity for the people in his life finding happiness in the world that he can't grasp. As someone who's totally been there, I give it more leniency than something like, I don't know, Blubberella that exists purely to mock overweight people for being overweight. It may seem irrelevant, but I think that the lyrics subvert the expectation that Wendell would present us in any other sketch in a very interesting way. However, I'm getting ahead of myself. I think we have enough context for a 2-minute music video, right? Let's talk about the power of wings.
Anything is achievable. Don't let nobody tear you down.
Sexual.
Just take flight is believable. If you must learn to stand your ground. Flying high to the limit of the world and how I touch the sky. Like a dream, you can never tell the lies from what's exactly as it seems.
To begin, this music video does have a narrative. However, it's more the meta-narratives that concern me, so we'll get the plot of this film within a film out of the way first. Wendell is playing a magical knight of some sort, riding a gallant steed and battling evil sorcerers for the liberation of a woman as prize, yada yada. It reeks of 90s cable adventure series in a very loving way, and it's clear immediately that Jordan Peele has a lot of adoration for the camp that he's emulating. Big Highlander TV vibes, very Mortal Kombat Conquest. Aesthetically, this is obviously a projection of how Wendell views the world. It's packed with toxic masculinity and traditional values that have been indoctrinated into him from a young age by the more immature media that he spends his life uncritically consumed by. This is not a judgment on anybody for enjoying comics as an adult, or watching cartoons as an adult or anything, okay? You may have noticed that I routinely talk about children's media for like an hour on my channel. It simply shows that Wendell consumes very conservative media without any real thought behind the narratives that are being presented to him, and this music video is a perfect, tangible representation of how he mindlessly regurgitates those values into his own art. Musically, and I'll admit this is a shortcoming of mine, there's a reason I'm a film critic, this reminds me a lot of theater metal like Ghost. However, lyrically, it reminds me a lot more of arena rock power ballads, something like Survivor or Styx would write, and I think that that's really interesting. I just think it creates this really interesting juxtaposition of the lyrics and the aesthetics of the video, where the iconography of Wendell is very much dedicated to blowing up his own already inflated self-ego. The lyrics are very much directed at the audience, saying, hey, Wendell has achieved this dream through this video. By seeing this iconography, you can internalize the message of the song, which is that anything is achievable. You know what I mean? It's really interesting. But, like, maybe only to me. Now, as mentioned, I'm a words brain, I'm not a math guy, I do not know music, I have people for that, and that's why I called up my friend Common Sentai Power Posting to hear their opinion on this. As a quote, I think a lot of conversations about metal forget its very nerdy roots. From the get-go, Led Zeppelin was making literal Tolkien fanfic ballads, so of course the bands and genres that they would inspire, especially metal, would continue to be concerned with fantastical storylines of triumph, defeat, good and evil, dragons and wizards, monster men and heroes. Does this sound familiar? You can draw parallels between bands using practical effects on stage to convey the spectacular, which is exactly the same as Tokusatsu as a medium's roots in kabuki and no theater. Is the way that the band Gojira uses audio distortion techniques to wrest new sounds from their guitars any different than the way that the creative team of the actual Gojira would layer animal sounds over each other in order to create Gojira's roar? Metal is all about the fantasy that Wendell is literally constructing for himself. He's performing like Zeppelin in the Shire, or like Ghost's modern unholy pageantry. I totally fucking called it on Ghost, didn't I? For me, it's more like Shotaro Ishinomori expressing his worldview and doing self-crit through Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, or like Ishiro Honda trying to express his more environmentalist concerns through Godzilla. Now that's all great, but then we get to the second layer, the meta-narrative of the piece. Wendell, in order to realize this film, has hired a cameraman, a band, an actor, a stunt double, rented props, a camera, a horse. As the events play out and the video rolls on, the initial budget of $15,000 rapidly drains before completion due to overspending, leaving him no choice but to improvise low-budget workarounds to create his planned spectacle rather than either giving up or selling out. Now, obviously, that in and of itself is hilarious. He could have just called it a day there, right? The biggest laugh for me is probably the white lady playing the damsel, charging him like $7,000 for maybe 3 hours of silent shooting over the course of one afternoon. It's already a concise cautionary tale about the perils of blowing your funding on a project early. It's a warning that even having a budget won't elevate material built on nothing. It's a satire of empty art, the pretension of self-serious fantasy that doesn't aim to be anything more than a self-indulgent escapist vanity project, and that's all awesome. But where this all becomes so cool to me is the secret third layer. Check out what happens when we play the footage in reverse.
Jesus was black, Ronald Reagan was the devil, and the government is lying about 9/11.
I'm just kidding. That's not it. That's not the point that I'm making. It would be funny, though. No, for real, though. Playing the video backwards, we see the exact blueprint that content creators go through in finding ways to express themselves on a budget. These last shots of the video remind me so much of the movies that I and my friends would make in school for class projects, of the sketches that early YouTube was built on, of the works of Eiji Tsuburaya and Ray Harryhausen. It's weirdly melancholic for me, honestly. The cardboard sword, whatever robe that I could find that looked ominous enough to fill my purposes, projecting social interactions that I was missing out on into toys. Although, I was never quite lonely to this degree, so... Small favors. I love the shots of him flying on the Pegasus with forced perspective. For the record, this is the exact same tactic that Peter Jackson employed to create Lord of the Rings. The cardboard leg on the horse, like, it's so similar to the way that Ray Harryhausen would have to draw in the ends of, like, swords and spears from where the green screens would overlap for a composite shot. And, like, I know that this is a comedy, it's a parody, but despite that, Jordan Peele's love for Tokusatsu as a medium just oozes from every frame of this video. Like, this is a 3-second cutaway joke. He didn't have to go this hard. But anything is achievable. Don't let nobody tear you down. Sexually. What? Don't be fucking weird. Go sit in your corner. Asshole. Everyone starts somewhere. You can't just launch into things and expect to be perfect at them immediately, or you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Yes, this shot of him fighting Stimpy is cringe. Yes, this uppercut whiffs hard. Yes, he is synced improperly with the Pegasus that he's supposed to be riding. Yes, these are clearly the first Fireball PNGs that came up on image search. These are what we call stepping stones. Mistakes are just opportunities for growth. Winding back to the start, we can see what Wendell's creative vision is capable of because of the context that we later get. That this is an extension of presumably years of refinement of the basic techniques of his craft. At least mechanically, it seems like he's more proficient with tech theater than, say, I don't know, scripting. But we all have our strengths and weaknesses, don't we? That's why filmmaking is a collaborative effort. I know that I would be lost without my Humagear to operate my camera and edit all of my videos for free. With the proper resources, with a community of collaborative creators to help account for his shortcomings, Wendell is capable of creating art that, at the very least on an aesthetic and auditory level, is pleasant to engage with. Like, come on, look at this bokeh! That's ambient, right? And I think that there are some great lessons to take away from that. As the channel Accented Cinema says, and you should absolutely check them out, we learn from masters and amateurs. Learn your roots. Watch classics of the genre that you want to create for. If you want to make a noir, watch 30s noir, and move up over time, same with any other genre. There's a reason that modern movies retain or refine so many of these classic tropes. There are really solid bases. Even if you don't like them, you may learn a new trick, and you might take away a good criticism that you can apply to your own work in that genre. Practice foundational skills, and then move up. I started making videos with my phone, a green screen, and 2 ring lights. I'm hardly claiming to be a master of technical proficiency with my camera, but every video I try to do a new effect. I try to approach a topic from a different angle for perspective, so that my craft is always evolving. You never know when a tool that you always thought you wouldn't need will come in handy. As an example, I was originally overwhelmed by my video editing software's picture-in-picture settings, but it has since become a tool that I rely on very heavily to help line up all of my screenshots in a fraction of the time. Work within your budget. You'd be amazed what you can come up with working in constraints, and that will help you out a long way in stretching any budgets you do get in the future. Anything is tokusatsu if you squint hard enough. As another example, I can't afford an Ultraman Zero cosplay suit, but what I can afford is the Ultraman Zero figuarts, meaning that I now just have action scenes on the table whenever I feel like making them through stop motion, because stop motion only requires a camera and a tripod to bring to life. Additionally, you would be amazed at what building up a strong community can do for your options as a creator. I try to do as much of my own work as possible on my own, but if I ever need it, I have many people that I've earned the privilege to call on for assistance and expertise, because I've put the time and effort into building a platform that the people I want for that enjoy engaging with, such as with my friend Common Sentai Power posting earlier in just this video. Finally, the most obvious, and in my opinion most important aspect, go have fun! Make art! Whatever your idea is, just go out and make it a reality. This is something that I struggle with a lot. I have to gear myself up to film and do days of editing, and then every time I fucking kick myself in the ass because it's just so nice seeing the final product, seeing how people resonate with it. If the show, the music, the book, the movie that you want to see in the world doesn't exist, please go make it. I don't say that as a dismissal or a write-off of systemic issues preventing it. I say that as a genuine voice of support. Media creation is more accessible than ever these days, and we have platforms that I never dreamed of as a child for finding audiences for it. Make bad media, I don't care, I love that stuff too. Garden State is one of my favorite movies. I used to review movies under a pseudonym, and I was an edgy shitlord. It doesn't matter how it comes out the first time, you can always pick yourself up and try again. Make media for you. Sometimes it will resonate with people. And that is just the best feeling in the world. Thank you so much for watching. I have no idea what the fuck this video is. A review that I was working on got claimed, and I didn't feel like getting immediately back into it, and I had this music video stuck in my head, so here you go. It's just neat. I love Tokusatsu so much, you know, and it was really nice when Key and Peele was around and there was just the sketch show that, you know, practically employed so many of its techniques. I miss it. I miss it a lot. Thank you so much to our patron investors and board members, without whom this channel would simply not be possible. If you would like to get early access to upcoming videos and your name in the credits, please feel free to take a visit to either my Patreon or my Ko-fi. Support starts for as low as $1. Thank you for your consideration. If you're interested in keeping up to date with the channel in real time, my Twitter will be located in the description below. Playlist and sub button should be coming up. Feel free to hit the like, comment, share, sub, any of those that you feel are applicable. No pressure. If you want to check out the sketch that we were talking about all video, then that's also in the description. I'm going to go work on something else because I'm all hyped up. But for now, I've been Tim Shields, and when it comes to Tokusatsu, I'm your guy.